I think of all the mood songs maybe that I've ever written, the LA song might be one of those that the vibe I was trying to capture, not only in writing it, but recording it was just, really, we nailed it. I wrote that song, I'd written about a friend of mine, and she was in this relationship. She lived in LA, and I had gone out to see her, and she had, when I was there, we were catching up, and she was telling me that she was in this relationship, and she didn't know what was going to happen. She really cared about him, and I just remember coming home and back to Nashville and having that little guitar part, and I remember writing it so fast because I was just referencing her. The dilemma was I didn't know how to end it because her situation, I didn't know what was going to happen, and so I wrote kind of an ending of my own and recorded it. I remember too thinking that surgeon was such a weird word, but it was one of those things I was like, either this is awesome or it's a terrible idea. But I loved the risk I was taking in putting that lyric in the song, and I got through writing it and recorded it, and I sent it to her, and I was like, hey, I just thought this would make you smile. And she called me immediately and was like, you don't understand, this is exactly what happened, which I knew that my soothsayer magician abilities had come true, that I was able to write and song the future. No. That would be amazing. What do you need to happen? Well, let me put it to tune. Well, a couple of the cool things about the recording is I was able to play the drum loops under what Scott's doing, which I thought I was the coolest thing in the world because they had actually let me play drums on the record, which he had to manipulate significantly to make work. But I love that. I also love in that song, something that's kind of a fun fact is the version that I sing live is the way I wrote it. And when we got in the studio, I did it the way I'd written it, and it just didn't feel right. The melody on the verses was just not, for some reason in that track, it didn't work very well. And so Ed was kind of like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, let me just sort of do another melody. So I sat there for a minute and came up with a melody that I sang on the album, and we liked it a lot more. I thought it was much more interesting, though oddly enough, I've never sung that melody live ever. I still sing the old melody. But if you listen to the album, especially in the down verse, you can hear the old melody because we did a full recording of the old melody, but that's really bleed from my headphones. And Ed was like, it's kind of cool if we leave it in there and sort of act like we meant to do it, because it gives this song this sort of like ghostly kind of other thing. And I also love Ed's acoustic, the gut string classical guitar thing at the end of the song. I always thought that was really cool. But that was probably, I think, maybe my favorite to record on the album. I remember we recorded it at night, and it was like one of those things, I think, as a guy that's wanting to be, an artist, you always see those things where you're like, man, the lights are off in the studio and you're singing and you're really feeling it. And that was one of those for me. I remember really thinking that was one of those poignant moments for me. It still is, even after the records I've done now. That moment of Ed and I sitting there and the lights were down, and, it was just a cool sort of moment of singing something that you believed to a song that needed that kind of, that sort of a take. But it's still one of my favorites, still something that I listen to now, and it's such a fun thing because it takes me right back to, when I wrote it and recorded it.